The top stories tonight in Y News. Fully vaccinated travelers from green or low-risk countries are now allowed to undergo a quarantine period shortened to just 7 days in the Philippines starting July 1.
Several local government units temporarily suspend the use of Sinovac vaccines.
The Philippine National Police will conduct an investigation into the alleged operation of vaccination schedule fixers. Senator Manny Pacquiao accepts President Rodrigo Duterte's challenge to name corrupt agencies and officials.
The International Criminal Court calls on victims of alleged crimes linked to the Philippine government's war on drugs to voice out their concerns and expectations on the probe.
And know why it is illegal for employers to pay their employees' salaries purely in coins. Good evening, Philippines and the world. We are now reporting live from Commonwealth, Quezon City. Today is Tuesday, June 29, 2021. I am William Theo.
Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the country and in other parts of the world. I'm Angelo Castro III.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am Herlene Delgado.
First in the news, beginning next month, the Philippines will start implementing shorter quarantine period for fully vaccinated international travelers. Meanwhile, the entry restrictions being imposed upon travelers from India and 6 more countries have been extended. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
Inbound international travelers fully vaccinated in the Philippines as well as in green or low-risk countries and jurisdictions will have to undergo 7-day facility-based quarantine starting on July 1. On the 5th day upon their arrival, they will also undergo RT-PCR test. However, this testing protocol is subject for review after a month.
Itong testing requirement na binanggit ko ay sasailalim pa rin naman sa review 30 araw pagkatapos itong ma-implement.
Vaccines administered to fully vaccinated international passengers are those included in the Emergency Use Authorization or Compassionate Special Permit of the Philippine Food and Drug Administration and Emergency Use Listing of the World Health Organization. Upon arrival, they need to present their vaccination status before the Bureau of Quarantine representative for verification. Those fully vaccinated in the Philippines must carry their vaccination card issued through the Department of Information and Communications Technology or the City Health Officer of the local government unit which administered the full vaccination. While those fully vaccinated in low-risk countries will have to carry their official vaccination documentation, validated through the Philippine Overseas Labor Offices or their International Certificate of Vaccination. The Department of Health will release the list of those considered green countries or jurisdictions. Meanwhile, the Philippines extended the travel restrictions imposed on passengers coming from India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, United Arab Emirates, and Oman until July 15 due to the threat of Delta variant. However, outbound travel to these countries are not prohibited and Filipinos included in the repatriation program of the government as well as private sector in these nations are exempted from the travel ban. The palace apologizes to Filipinos affected by the travel restrictions, especially those who are stranded in UAE.
Hinihingi po namin ang inyong pasensya at pag-intindi dahil ito naman po ay isang napatunayan ng paraan para mapigilan po ang pagpasok ng mas nakakamatay at mas nakakahawang Delta variant at Delta Plus variant, no, na po pwede pong magdulot ng kamatayan o di naman kaya pagkakasakit hindi lang sa inyo, kundi sa inyong mga mahal sa buhay dito po sa Pilipinas.
Meanwhile, though Indonesia has rising COVID-19 cases dominated by the Delta variant, the country will not yet impose travel restrictions. However, the Philippine government will continue to tighten its border control. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte has approved the recommendations of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, or IATF-EID, on the community quarantine restrictions for the month of July. The task force recommended to still place the National Capital Region, or NCR, and the provinces of Rizal and Bulacan under GCQ with some restrictions until July 15. This means indoor dining and gyms are limited to 40% venue capacity. Cavite and Laguna, meanwhile, will be under GCQ with heightened restrictions in the same period, while some provinces, including Davao Region and Iloilo Province, will be under modified enhanced community quarantine. Several cities and provinces will be placed under regular GCQ for the whole month of July, and most parts of the country will be under modified GCQ. Local government units have until tonight to appeal their community quarantine status before the Interagency Task Force.
Ito po ang preliminarily approved community quarantine classifications para sa buwan ng Hulyo. Dahil ito po ay subject to appeal pa hanggang mamayang gabi po, yung mga LGU na gusto mag-apila, po pwede po.
Fresh cases of COVID-19 in the National Capital Region, or NCR, continue to decline, with nearly 1,000 new cases in the previous days. But according to the Department of Health, NCR has yet to return to its pre-surge level. Aiko Miguel will tell us why live. Yes, Aiko?
Yes, Harleen, the Health Department has no projection yet when the pre-surge level of COVID-19 cases in the National Capital Region will again be recorded. Although a decline is seen in NCR, daily COVID-19 infections is still over 600. Here is Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere, the spokesperson of the Department of Health.
This is very far, no, dun sa ating case trends. Noon po tayong bago mag-surge na nandun lang ho tayo sa about 300 or 300 plus, no, cases per day noon pong bago mag-surge, and that was January to February, early part of February this year. Ang kondisyon po or sitwasyon dito sa NCR is still very fragile. Hindi po ito yung oras para maging complacent tayo dahil nakikita na ho nating bumababa ang mga kaso.
Harleen, to sustain and maintain a low case trend, the government decided to extend the general community quarantine with restriction status in NCR and other high-risk areas.
Kailangan po natin maintindihan na napaka-porous po ng ating borders, yung interzonal natin. And we know that cases are rising or increasing in other parts of the country. Primarily, kaya po tayo GCQ pa rin at hindi MGCQ, although the numbers may be able to have that MGCQ already, ay dahil alam po natin na katulad ng sabi ko, fragile pa po tayo. We still should be on guard. Dahil alam po natin anytime pwede na namang tumaas sa mga kasos.
The public should still responsibly observe implemented minimum public health standards, especially in attending mass gatherings. People should also refrain from going to crowded places like the public markets, restaurants, and malls when they have nothing essential to buy. According to the DOH, it is also important to be protected from COVID-19. Especially now that the World Health Organization says that the COVID-19 Delta variant rapidly spreads among unvaccinated population.
Kaya nga po tayo nagbabakuna para sa lahat, para hindi tayo magkaroon ng ganyang risk para sa ating kalusugan. So it's not just the Delta variant, but also the other variants of this virus, SARS-CoV-2, ay talagang at risk ang mga hindi nababakunahan. Mga kababayan, magpabakuna po tayo para mabawasan yung risk natin of having this disease and having this kind of severe infections.
Harleen, through inoculation, COVID-19 case surge can be avoided. Hospitals in National Capital Region and other areas with surge of COVID-19 infection will not be overwhelmed, and mutation of COVID-19 variants can be prevented from occurring. That is the latest live. Back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Aiko Miguel, reporting live. Meanwhile, the Department of Health, or DOH, reported 4,479 new COVID-19 cases nationwide. The new cases pushed the country's overall tally to 1,408,058. of which 50,037 are patients still being treated. Of the active cases, 90.4% of them are experiencing mild symptoms, 4.4% are asymptomatic, 1.54% have moderate symptoms, 2.1% are in severe, and 1.5% are in critical condition. The death toll jumped to 24,557 with 101 new fatalities. Meanwhile, the recovery count also climbed to 1,333,464 after 6,471 more patients beat the viral disease.
Several local government units have temporarily suspended the use of Sinovac Life Sciences Coronavac vaccine until further notice. Janice Inhente will tell us why.
400,000 doses of Sinovac vaccines in Manila City await a Certificate of Analysis or COA, which comes from the manufacturer. That is why the vaccination in the city using Chinese vaccines has been temporarily suspended until further notice. Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara explains that the COA certifies that the delivered vaccines are of good quality, and it usually comes in later after the vaccines are delivered.
The COA coming from the manufacturer, especially for Sinovac, usually comes in later. Hindi po siya kasabay ng deliveries. Dumadating po siya ay sa mga ganitong panahon. Maybe after 2 to 3 days, minsan naman 5 araw, 6 na araw. So pagkabigay na po sa kanila ng COA, they can already resume their vaccinations.
Taguig City has resumed the second dose inoculation of its residents a day after halting its vaccine drive due to pending COA issuance. In its advisory on Tuesday afternoon, the local government announced that it has reopened vaccination hubs for those who will get their second dose of Sinovac or AstraZeneca. Vaccine is scheduled to get their second dose on June 28 and June 29, may go to the sites until 6 p.m. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Philippine National Police Chief General Guillermo Eleazar directed the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group to look into the alleged operation of vaccination schedule fixers in Pasig City. Lea Ilagan will tell us why.
Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto disclosed yesterday that 2 fixers were caught asking fees in exchange for allowing persons to get COVID-19 shots ahead of their schedules in Pasig City's vaccination program.
May nahuli na tayong 2 fixer. May formal complaint po yan na ipafile laban sa kanila. Bahala na sila. Good luck na lang sa kanila.
Mayor Soto had said the city government was eyeing filing a formal complaint against those who were apprehended. The Criminal Investigation and Detection Group or CIDG was tasked to look into the illegal operations. Philippine National Police Chief Police General Guillermo Eleazar urged the public to avoid falling prey to the scam, stressing that the immunization is free. He also underscored the importance of the prioritization list as he appealed for others to patiently wait for their turn. The PNP chief further urged the public to immediately report to authorities or through the different e-sumbong platforms any information on alleged vaccination schedule fixers. Lea Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
For those watching our 24/7 live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook.
Senator Manny Pacquiao is up to the challenge of President Rodrigo Duterte to name the corrupt agencies and officials in the government. But how will this word war between the top leaders of the ruling party PDP Laban affect its preparation for the 2022 elections? Here's the report. Challenge accepted. This was the response of Senator Manny Pacquiao as he accepted President Rodrigo Duterte's dare to name corrupt government agencies and officials. During his public address last night, President Duterte challenged the senator to give him a list within a week or else he will campaign against him and will expose him as a liar. In a statement, Pacquiao thanked the president for the opportunity to work with him in fighting corruption. According to Pacquiao, it was President Duterte himself who mentioned in October last year that corruption in the government is getting worse. The senator clarifies he is not a liar. He then asked to start investigating the Department of Health, challenging Health Secretary Francisco Duque III if he is ready to reveal the expenses made for the COVID-19 response. The senator adds it is unfortunate that the country's leaders are arguing over corruption. For the palace, the relationship between the two, who were both top leaders of the ruling party PDP Laban, has undeniably turned sour. President Duterte serves as the party's chairman, while Pacquiao is the party's president.
I think it's rather obvious that the relationship between the President and Senator Pacquiao is not as cordial as it was, no? Natapon na po ang sabaw, kumbaga.
In a television interview, PDP Laban Vice Chairman Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi says Pacquiao has been burning bridges in the party, advising him to leave first before burning his house down. Asked for comment, Senator Coco Pimentel, who is the party's executive vice chairman, believes removing Pacquiao out of the party could be the real reason behind the move and that there must be a deeper plan. The senator adds the ongoing rift in the ruling party distracts the preparations for the 2022 national elections. Now that the fate of the ruling party in the upcoming election hangs in the balance, Pimentel wants to solve the internal conflicts privately. He also believes that it is high time for the top leaders of the party to sit down and settle the issues once and for all. Jorlin Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Rodrigo Duterte wants to continue his campaign against illegal drugs and corruption in the government beyond his term. The president will also support any presidential candidate that has the numbers in terms of popularity. Nel Marie Buhok explains why.
President Rodrigo Duterte has once again floated his possible vice presidential bid in the 2022 national elections. According to the president, he has unfinished business that he would like to continue.
Sabi ko, it's not at all a bad idea. And if there is a space for me there, siguro. Pero kung wala akong space, and everybody is crowding up, wanting to be one vice president, sila na lang muna kasi tapos na ako.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that the president wants to pursue his campaign against illegal drugs and corruption in the government.
Meron po siyang unfinished business pagdating po sa droga, pagdating po sa korupsyon. Pero ang sinabi naman niya, kinukonsider niya tumakbo only if there is space for him. Kung wala naman po, okay din naman po.
But the president says his vice presidential run would depend on the presidential bet he will support. The president is looking for a politician who is an ally of the administration and not an enemy of the ruling party, the Partido Demokratiko Pilipino Lakas ng Bayan or PDP Laban. Secretary Roque reiterated what President Duterte's options on who to endorse as the next top leader of the country.
Kung sino minumero, Senator Pacquiao, Mayor Isko Moreno, former Senator Bongbong, in that order. And of course, nandun din yung si Senator Bongo na who said na he will only run for the presidency if the president will run as his vice president.
The said statement of the president was before his apparent rift with Senator Manny Pacquiao. Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte has already rejected a possible tandem with her father, President Duterte, should she decide to join the presidential race next year. President Duterte earlier said he plans to retire and go back to Davao City once his term ends next year. Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
The possible extension of the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act or Bayanihan 2 is becoming dimmer according to House Majority Leader Ferdinand Martin Romualdez. But the palace hopes that the remaining funds will still be utilized for its purpose. Ray Pelayo explains why.
The fate of the Bayanihan to Recover as One Act or Bayanihan 2 is coming down to the wire as Congress needs to immediately take action to amend the law before it ends tomorrow, June 30. Lawmakers have been asking for a special session to extend the validity of the law. According to House Majority Floor Leader Martin Romualdez, all they need is a go signal from the Malacanang, but for now, it is unlikely.
Medyo gipit na tayo sa oras kaya parang lumalabo na ang ating pag-hold ng special session.
Nevertheless, Malacanang hopes that there is still a way to utilize the remaining funds from Bayanihan 2 despite the fact that it is expiring tomorrow.
So, let us not foreclose the idea po na in the next ilang araw na lang ba before July 1, isa o dalawa o isang araw, pwede pa rin po ma-obligate yan. Otherwise, hindi naman po mawawala yung pera. Pupunta lang po yan sa National Treasury.
The Filipino Nurses United, meanwhile, still hopes that healthcare workers will be able to receive their special risk allowances or SRA even those who are not assigned in hospital wards intended for COVID-19 patients.
Sana lahat ng health workers makatanggap ng special risk allowance kasi ang COVID-19 ay airborne. Once na pumasok ka sa hospital or any healthcare facility, at risk na yung tiluhay mo.
Healthcare workers are also demanding compensation for meal, transportation, and accommodation expenses as well as the active duty hazard pay. For its part, the Department of Health confirmed that the DBM has already released the 9 billion peso remaining fund for the healthcare workers SRA.
So tayo po ngayon ay nakikipag-usap patuloy sa DBM para po tayo makahanap pa ng pondo para mabigyan naman po natin at maibigay ang monetization na accorded sa ating healthcare workers.
The DOH added that another 3 billion pesos has been released for the recruitment of additional healthcare workers who have been deployed in areas with high risk of COVID-19 transmission. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
And for the news abroad, multiple cities in Australia are now on lockdown as the country is grappling with several outbreaks. Nina Bascon explains why.
In Western Australia, the city of Perth and the Peel region joined Sydney and Darwin into lockdown on Monday after an infected woman travelled from Sydney to Perth. 2 million residents were ordered to stay home as the health authorities complete all contact tracing. Lockdown is set to last until July 3.
We didn't want to risk the virus getting out of control. We want to crush this outbreak as quickly as possible.
While Queensland, the third most populous state, announced this morning that southeast Queensland, Townsville, Palm Island, and Magnetic Island will go on a 3-day snap lockdown from 6 p.m. tonight. The unexpected announcement came after a 19-year-old unvaccinated hospital staff tested positive to COVID-19. To date, Australia has recorded 30,528 cases, with 271 of which are active. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Scott Morrison has announced people under 40 are now able to request for AstraZeneca jab. Almost 7.4 million vaccine doses have been administered, with less than 5% reported to have received both jabs. Nina Bascon, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The United Arab Emirates will tighten the measures on the Green Pass system, which would limit the movement of unvaccinated individuals. Annie Mancilia gives us the details live. Yes, Annie?
Yes, Steph, starting August 20, unvaccinated residents in the UAE's capital, Abu Dhabi, will not be allowed in shopping centers, restaurants, cafes, gyms, museums, theme parks, resorts, and sporting activities. The only public place unvaccinated people may shop are retail locations that sell essential goods, such as supermarkets and pharmacies. This is a move to encourage 100% of its residents to get vaccinated.
The Green Pass system, which was launched about 2 weeks ago, is a color-coded system to indicate vaccination status and testing history. According to the Emirati government, 15.1 million doses of Sinopharm vaccine have already been administered to its population. And at least 93% of Abu Dhabi's population has received at least one dose of vaccine. Meanwhile, similar restrictions have been implemented in its neighboring emirate, Dubai, where large gatherings such as sporting events require vaccinations. Steph?
Annie, you mentioned of the Green Pass system. What is it exactly? Is it an online form? Could you tell us more about it?
Steph, it's basically the government's health declaration app that people in Abu Dhabi can download. It's designed to indicate a person's vaccination status. Once you have been vaccinated, it will show green color. Steph?
Thank you, Annie, reporting live. Several countries restrict flights and travelers coming from the United Kingdom. Marvi Delphine will tell us why live. Yes, Marvi?
Steph, flights and travelers from the United Kingdom have been restricted by Hong Kong, Portugal, Spain, and Malta in order to prevent the spread of the contagious COVID-19 Delta variant. Hong Kong will ban all traveler flights from the UK starting this Thursday, the 1st of July, after the government identified Britain as extremely high risk. This includes individuals who have stayed in the country for more than 2 hours. At the same time, Portugal, Spain, and Malta have introduced restrictions against travelers from the UK who are not fully vaccinated. Portugal will require travelers to prove that they have received their second dose of vaccine 2 weeks prior to their arrival. Otherwise, they will have to quarantine for 14 days after they arrive. Measures will apply to flights to mainland Portugal only. Malta will allow travelers who have been fully vaccinated with both doses of vaccine by Wednesday. The government will also allow children under 12 years old, given that their parents or guardians are fully vaccinated. Spain will require travelers to prove that they are fully vaccinated. Otherwise, a negative PCR blood test on arrival is needed. Negative reactions were received in place of the cancelled travel plans. Parents in Hong Kong who have children in the UK have displayed their shock, saying that their children will now be stranded in the UK. Holiday makers will also have to cancel their plans if one member of the family does not fit the above criteria. Steph?
Marvi, different countries and destinations constantly shift between green and red lists. How can travelers from the UK provide evidence of their vaccination status to prepare for changing restrictions?
Steph, the UK government says travelers can provide an NHS COVID pass to prove their vaccination status. The pass can be used digitally or in paper format and will allow holders to access their own records after receiving their second dose of any approved COVID-19 vaccine. Steph, the vaccines need to have been given in England to individuals over 16 years of age. In saying that, the government is also aware of the changing list, and refunds for applicable flights and travels can be claimed. Back to you, Steph.
Thank you, Marvi, reporting live. We would like to warn our viewers that they may find the video in this next story disturbing. Hundreds of bodies were flushed out in India's Ganges River, which were buried during the recent surge of COVID-19 in the country. Charisse Lamboan details why live. Yes, Charisse?
Steph, annual monsoon rains in India resulted to the flooding of the Ganges River, washing away the sand and revealing hundreds of bodies buried in the water. According to an official in the northern city of Allahabad, Mr. Niraj Kumar Singh, almost 150 bodies have had to be cremated in the past 3 weeks, and they are guessing around 500 to 600 bodies are buried in the river. Most of the bodies were believed to have died from COVID-19 during the spike in the country around April and May, and precautions are taken in dealing with the said bodies. Some families of those who died from COVID-19 were not able to afford materials needed for cremation, so they resort to immersing their dead in Ganges or burying them in sandbanks next to the river. Steph?
Charisse, how is the COVID-19 situation in India now?
Steph, there has been a steady decline in the number of daily COVID-19 cases in the country since reaching its peak last month. As of 8 a.m. Indian Standard Time, there are a total of 552,659 active COVID-19 cases, while the total reported deaths are 397,637. A total of 329,029,510 vaccine doses were already administered as of latest report. Steph?
Thank you, Charisse, for that report. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I'm Stephanie C. live from Hong Kong. Good evening.
The International Criminal Court, or ICC, has called on the families of the alleged victims of the Philippines war on drugs to come forward and submit their concerns over the request for an investigation. The ICC, however, noted that the submission of representations is not yet an application. Dante Amento tells us why.
In a statement, the International Criminal Court, or ICC, says victims of the alleged crimes over the Philippines war on drugs have the right to submit representations based on its legal framework. Victims may provide their views, concerns, and expectations over former ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatu Bensoda's request to the pre-trial chamber to open a formal investigation. This will help ICC judges for their consideration. Victims must fill out representation forms and give details which ask such as names of the victims, where was the event occurred, believed to be the responsible, and the like. Representation forms should be sent either to the ICC provided email address or to their postal address. The deadline for submission will be on August 13, 2021. Meanwhile, Malacanang says the ICC is free to do its task but reiterates the government will not cooperate with the investigation.
No reaction po. The ICC can do what it wants, pero alam niyo po, the whole treaty, inadapt po yan na with the realization na kung di naman po magko-cooperate talaga ang Estado, mahirap po talagang magkaroon ng kaso.
Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque stresses the challenges would be for the case build-up due to lack of evidence.
Alam ko po na there's been a view expressed that withdrawal from the ICC will not affect jurisdiction for the period during which the country was a member. Pero alam din po na ICC, without cooperation from the state, napakahirap po ng case build-up because all criminal cases, even in the ICC and most especially in the ICC, must present real evidence and not just newspaper reports.
Recently retired International Criminal Court Judge Raul Pangalangan explained the ICC retains jurisdiction over the allegedly cases of murder in the country. These events occurred when the Philippines was still a member state of the ICC.
The Philippines signed the Rome Statute in 2011, and when we signed the statute, we agreed to the terms laid down in the statute. And Article 127 of the statute says that the court retains jurisdiction even after withdrawal. It retains jurisdiction over all crimes committed in its territory while it was still a member of the Rome Statute.
The Philippines became a member of the Rome Statute from 2011 until its withdrawal effective March 17, 2019. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
A factory worker in Valenzuela City sought the help of authorities after getting his salary worth 1,056 pesos purely in coins. The Central Bank of the Philippines says this act is illegal. Asher Cadapan Jr. details why.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas limits the utilization of Philippine coins as legal tender for paying goods and services. Pursuant to BSP Circular Number 537 Series of 2006, Philippine peso coins in denomination of 1, 5, and 10 shall be legal tender in amounts not exceeding 1,000 pesos, while coins in denomination of 1, 5, 10, and 25 centavos shall be legal tender in amounts not exceeding 100 pesos. BSP Bank Officer 5 for Currency Policy and Integrity Department Ninette Malabrigo further says that Republic Act 7653 or the new Central Bank Act imposes even lower limit.
In particular naman doon sa Section 52 of Republic Act 7653, pag halimbawa ang coin ay 25 cents, up to 50 pesos lang pwede siyang pambayad. At kung 10 centavos, 5 centavos, 1 centavo, pwede mo siyang pambayad o sabihin natin legal tender lang ang coin hanggang 20 pesos lang.
This arises as a worker for a private company in Valenzuela City complains of being paid by his employer his 1,056 salary by purely 5 and 10 centavo coins. Mayor Rex Gatchalian confirms that the incident indeed happened but has yet to clear some concerns with the owner before he passes judgment in taking necessary legal actions against the company. Nevertheless, the local chief executive explains that companies should abide by both local and national policies, otherwise their business permit may be at risk of being revoked.
Remember, ang business permits natin, nakaangkla, may kondisyon yan. Pribilehyo yan na ibinibigay ng pamalang lungsod na nakalagay doon na kailangan sumusunod ka sa lahat ng alituntunin, lokal man o national. A BSP circular is part of a national ruling on how you should pay for goods and services rendered to you. So doon, I can tell you, meron na siyang butas doon.
The Valenzuela City Mayor is set to meet with the company owner as it comes back from an out-of-town affair tomorrow. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And in other news, smog continues to cover the Metro Manila skyline today. However, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, clarified that the presence of haze in the capital is not due to the sulfuric oxide expelled from Taal volcano. Marvin Callas explains why.
Photos of haze covering several areas in Metro Manila circulated and trends over the social media. Many believe it is due to sulfuric oxide expelled from Taal volcano. But PHIVOLCS clarified the smog that blanketed several parts in Metro Manila is not caused by the emission of Taal volcano, but instead due to man-made activities.
O sa ating mga kababayan, lalo na sa Manila, yung mga madilim na kalamitan natin, actually sa mababang parte lang, ano po yun, pollution po yun ng nasanhi ng emissions sa vehicle at industrial activity, no? So, hindi po yung galing sa Taal volcano. Huwag natin i-attribute sa Taal, talagang may pollution. Lalo na ngayon, dumami na yung mga vehicle. At kahapon, syempre, Lunes kahapon. Syempre, compared sa Linggo at Lunes na maraming sasakyan, diba?
Although there is a possibility for Metro Manila to be affected by the emission of sulfuric oxide from the Taal volcano, experts do not see it feasible because of a different wind direction.
Depende yan sa hangin. Kunyari, merong airflow yan eh. Sa mababang parte, yung direksyon ng hangin towards the northeast. Pero pag mas mataas na, may pagka-opposite yan. Ibang direksyon. So, kung matayog siguro, at papunta dito hangin, na-affectuhan tayo. Kasi kung 2 kilometro lang, hindi pa yan ang direksyon na hangin papunta sa northeast, hindi yan naabot dito. So ngayong panahon kasi habagat mo yan eh.
A 14,326 tons of emission from Taal volcano was recorded yesterday, greater than the average 4,771 tons recorded last June 27. These prompted PHIVOLCS to remind nearby residents at the Taal volcano to wear N95 masks and stay indoors as possible to avoid inhaling the volcanic emissions. It includes individuals suffering from asthma and other lung diseases. Taal volcano is currently under alert level 2 and is currently monitored by PHIVOLCS. Marvin Callas, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And before we close, we will leave you with a final word giving glory to God from the book of Proverbs, chapter 19, verse 14. It says, "House and riches are the inheritance of fathers, and a prudent wife is from the Lord.
And those are the reasons behind the news, June 29, 2021. I am Harleen Delgado.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I'm Angelo Castro III.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.